JT Orange, the Orange Man. We are back. I had a couple margaritas. You had football practice. We are ready to go. Let's talk some commissioner stuff, some trades that didn't go through, some trades that went through, and some other commissioner dilemmas that are going on in different leagues right now from week one. Some of my home league stuff too, so we'll get into it.
McGlynn is in. I repeat, McGlynn is in. Let the fun begin. This is the Commissioner Evaluation Podcast with your host, John McGlynn.
Is that Herms?
He got them guests on the Rolodex, stopping by to talk about some Dynasty Superflex. Everybody, yo, commish is in. It's time to sit down to listen to John McGlynn. Yo, who we trading, who we fading, who we getting off the squad. Knowledge never overrated, playing for number one. And yo, McGlynn is in. It's time to let the fun begin. It's the Commissioner Evaluation Podcast with John McGlynn.
That song is pretty amazing. I'm not gonna lie to you. I miss it.
John, I missed it. I haven't heard that song in a while. It's good to be back on the Commissioner Evaluation Podcast. That one's a classic. I love it.
So just off the get go. So just let's start to show a little drama here. There was a league we were in. There's a commissioner Facebook page that has all commissioner dilemmas about how to do this or how to change that or the settings or blah blah blah. So somebody had a question yesterday where they were in a league and somebody had Christian McCaffrey on the team. It was a late minute scratch. Okay. So, I mean, that happens. I mean, it is what it is. It's one of those things where, it's Monday Night Football. Nobody expected it to happen. So it is what it is. But instead of, this person was desperately in need of a win. So they cut Christian McCaffrey and picked up Jordan Mason. So could you imagine cutting Christian McCaffrey?
Dude, I was in a couple leagues where I had Christian McCaffrey and I needed the win, and I looked at it, and that was my only option because there was no way to move him because all my other guys had technically played, even though I had a couple guys that were out with injury. But I'm in a couple leagues where they don't let you put guys that are out on IR, so it totally screwed me. So I went to drop the guys even though they didn't technically play. Their game had already happened, and it wouldn't let me drop them. So my only way to pick up Jordan Mason was to drop Christian McCaffrey. I did not do it. I was like, no, I can't do it. I think there was only one league I could have done it in because in the other leagues he was owned already. Yeah. I had one league that had like Patrick Taylor available, and I was actually able to move because I started commissioner vote for a poll this summer saying, hey, we need to put guys that are out like on IR. And my big complaint was with the new 4 to 5 week IR rule, there's a bunch of times where guys will definitely be out for 3 weeks, but they don't go on IR. And they're not playing. I mean, the team's already said like they got this injury, there's no way they're playing, but they don't go on IR and you just have to sit on them. And they sit on spots. So I convinced my league. We had a poll and we won it. And so I did move him to IR and I picked up Patrick Taylor. Got me a big fat zero, so it didn't help me at all there. But I was trying to make a move.
Goose egg extraordinaire. So this guy lost. So he lost his match. He went, even though there was some serious points.
So let me get this right, John. He drops Christian McCaffrey for Jordan Mason because he's trying to win his match. This is week 1, mind you, not to get into the playoffs. And Jordan Mason has the freaking game of his life, and he still loses.
As the kids would say, he went ham. Okay, so he went ham yesterday, and he still lost the game by, I guess, was it just a couple points or a fractional point or something? But now he lost.
That's even worse because Jordan Mason had a huge game. Like the fact that he had to have even bigger game than he had in order for you to win and you drop Christian McCaffrey, wowzers.
I don't even think Christian McCaffrey might have had a game like Jordan Mason had, and he's.
I mean, it could have been close, but if you would have got that game out of Christian McCaffrey, every McCaffrey owner would have been pumped. 140 and a touch.
So the problem is, this is a friends and family league, okay? So I guess everybody went absolutely ape shit. So like, this is bullshit. They should be on the non-droppable list, And then the worst part about it was the commissioner didn't make any moves in the offseason. So he had the first waiver. They don't have FAB, they have waiver. So the commissioner had the first waiver and he got McCaffrey on the waiver.
He makes up again. Dude,
and then everybody's like, this is bullshit, So you know how it is with I can't even play with my brothers anymore. They're such fucking jagoffs, So I don't even play with them, So to do that and then have like your sister, your aunt, and your cousin, and your brother all in the league and then MFing, and you end up just falling into Christian McCaffrey when you probably had a pretty decent team already. If you're a commissioner in a friends and family league, you probably know what you're doing. You probably
you should be in the playoffs every year unless you just get murdered by injuries. But like, dude, this is how like leagues totally break up. Like Christian McCaffrey, because even though he didn't do anything, it's not his fault. The guy's a moron and dropped him. But the fact that he's first in line, people are like, "Oh, I bet you like made yourself first waiver wire." Like, probably been something that's been set for freaking a month. And they're like, "How did you get that?" Oh man, that's hilarious.
It was bad. It was really bad.
The best part about that story is he lost the matchup.
Right.
And not because Jordan Mays had a bad game. He lost the matchup when Jordan Mays just had his probably the best game he'll ever have in his career. And he still lost. And it was week 1. It was not like we were in like week 13 or 12, where it's like a must win to get in the playoffs. And you're like, hey, Christian McCaffrey, if I'm dropping him, whatever, I at least got to make the playoffs. That's a little bit of a different story, but man, dropping him week 1 and still losing is totally family league. That's hilarious.
That's probably your sister or your aunt or something like that. It was the replacement player who's never played fantasy before, just trying to get extra points. Probably has no idea who the fuck Christian McCaffrey is.
Well, I'd say that like for them, I will give them credit in a family league. At least they were paying enough attention to go in and try to pick a guy up. Usually people would just be like, "Oh, I didn't even realize he didn't play. I didn't know he was out." Like
it would be like me in college fucking football. Exactly the same thing. Like not even know what's going on. Like, oh shit, I didn't know that.
That's why you got to set those auto subs, baby. That's why you got to do the auto sub.
Did it this week? Absolutely, it was great.
Believe me, there was a bunch of leagues that I was on the phone, John, getting ready to text about how I was pissed why we didn't have auto subs, and this is the exact reason that they set up the auto subs. And then I was like, I already got a huge fight with everyone last week about the whole Taysom Hill being a quarterback on my fantasy league and how I thought it was the most ridiculous thing ever, and no one would change it. So I just was like, okay, I'm not going to fight this fight. I've already done that here in the last week.
Yeah, it is what it is. It's one of those things. So, there was waivers for this week. We talked about waivers in an earlier show today. So, there's one league I'm in it's been trade happy the whole entire offseason. It's been absolutely trade happy. So, I'm going to talk about a couple trades in one league, and you kind of tell me like, hey, yeah, that was a good trade or not a bad trade. So we talked about this earlier a little bit. I'm going to kind of get into specifics here. I traded away Javon Baker, Jermaine Burton, and Cade Stover, which I don't really care about losing Cade Stover, but Baker is somewhat losing Jermaine Burton here is probably one of the something that, but it comes out now that he's kind of being a jerk off in camp, and the team's not really working out with, which a lot of reports were that he's not a good fit in locker rooms, So I got Dylan Labb, Kamani Vidal, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Rico Dowdle, and Khalil Herbert, which I had at this point in time, the best running back I had on this team was like somebody who was like a third string on it was terrible. So I needed like any help I could possibly get. I traded away all my running backs just to get receivers, tight ends, and draft picks. So I had no running backs left. So I got Labb, Vidal, Edwards-Helaire, which Edwards-Helaire decided to have a mental breakdown the year I pick him up. And this guy was kind of forcing me. He was like, instead of Rico Dowdle, why don't you take J.K. Dobbins? And I'm like, no, I don't want J.K. Dobbins. He's probably not going to play. Give me Rico Dowdle instead. What a mistake, dude. What an absolute mistake. I would have won my first week. I only lost by like 12 points and my team blows. And it's like, dude, but these are the trades kind of you have to make sometimes when my receiving core is absolutely fantastic. So I didn't need any more wide receivers. I just needed to stack with get rid of a bunch of garbage and bring in some backup running backs that have a chance to come in and produce for one game. So how bad is this trade? If you're getting away Stover, Baker, and Burton. And you get Lobb, Vidal, Edwards, Dowdle, and Herbert. I think Herbert's going to get traded before this trade deadline's over with. I think he's going to go to some decent team. I don't know. Everybody keeps saying the Cowboys, but somebody's going to have an injury. And Khalil Herbert, this is the last year of his contract. Before the trade deadline's over with, he might go somewhere. I'm kind of crossing my fingers. I like Dylan Lobb a lot as a receiver out of the backfield. Kamani Vidal, I don't know what the hell happened there, man. He had so much promise coming out of. I mean, yeah, he wasn't a first round pick. He was was he a fourth or fifth rounder or something like that? Was he even undrafted? Or what? I forgot where he was at.
I'm gonna look it up real quick. I think I want to say he was a sixth rounder. I will look it up real quick, 6th or 7th round, but I know he was on there.
The league went ape shit saying, Jermaine Burton is a. I got Burton at like 302, which third round draft picks. I like him a lot, but I mean, it's not like I burned my 101 to get these guys, It's okay. I was like my 301.
I mean, you traded some guys. It's slightly questionable, but it's like, I mean, I know people like Burton and Baker a lot, but they were a 3rd and 4th round pick. It's not like you traded a 1st or 2nd round NFL pick away. I think you probably lost that trade in reality, unless, I mean, you need you need Herbert to end up somewhere. You need Dylan Lobb to like really take over and get a ton of PT, which it's not looking good with Madison getting a ton of third down work in the first game. Again, the other issue with they're rookie running backs. It takes time. It takes time. Like getting these guys in right away, it just doesn't always happen. It can be rough. It takes a little bit of time for these guys to kind of make their way. So I don't know, man. You definitely value wise, if you just want to say trade value wise, you lost that trade, but I understand where you're coming from. You're like, hey man, I got 0 running backs, which I know where your head's at. I have a couple leagues where I went like QB heavy, like running back heavy, or QB and wide receiver heavy, and some startups. And I'm looking at my roster going week 1 and going, oh, these aren't really startable players. Like I'm starting like Trey Benson and Ray Davis, who I love, but I'm starting them because I don't have any other running backs because I drafted so young. So yeah, I've been there. I've seen that. You know what? I'm looking it up. You know what? Vidal might have gone undrafted. I am not seeing him on this list.
You know what? If I go to our lads and I look them up, I'm sure it'll show there.
I'm looking right. I'm like literally. I have the draft list right in front of me. I'm like literally pulled it up. I'm looking through it. For some reason, I thought he went in like the 6th or 7th, but I'm not seeing. He might have been underdrafted.
20. He was pick number 24 in the 6th round.
6th round. Okay, I looked at the 6th round. I must have went right by him. Oh, there I did. I went right by him. So yes, yep, there you go. 6th round. I thought it was a 6th rounder. So yeah, top of the 6th round, 4th pick or 5th pick in the 6th round. So yeah, a lot of people liked him. I mean, that's a tough round. I mean, I like some of those guys in the 6th round, but 6th rounders are so hard to see if they're actually going to make it. I think he's a guy that's probably still going to have a chance to be in the mix there eventually, but he's how guys like Jim Harbaugh, he wants old veterans, guys he knows, guys he can count on. The Gus Edwards. I mean, the J.K. Dobbins was just an unreal week 1. I mean, I hope he has a great season, and I don't have him anywhere because I decided to get off that train at the end of last season. I was just like, I can't do it anymore. I was like, I keep taking Dobbins every year thinking I'm going to be smart and get a steal, and then I don't.
And Dobbins had one good game. You can't overreact either. You can't be like, oh my God, I got to trade away the fucking house to get J.K. Dobbins.
And you know what? J.K. Dobbins, we've seen this before, haven't we?
Yes, we have.
Couple 2-3 good games. We're like, here it comes, J.K. Dobbins season-ending injury. Yeah, I mean, it just. I hope it doesn't happen to him because man, the guy seems like he works hard, and you just hate seeing guys' careers just never take off because of all the injuries. But hopefully, he has a good year. I mean, I'd like to see it, even though I don't have him anywhere in fantasy.
So then I traded away Jared Wiley, Darius Slayton, Mac Jones, and John Mechie to get Dameon Pierce, which. What the hell? It's just an ugly trade all around. I mean, I thought Dameon Pierce would have possibly had some kind of some kind of role here. He's still getting some special team stuff. We do get points for special teams in this league. But yeah, it's just kind of it was a yuck for yuck trade on that as far as that goes.
Yeah, that's a tough one on Pierce. It's like when the new coaching staff came in, it's like they kind of immediately were like, yeah, he's not our guy. After he looked pretty good as a rookie, he also was good because he got volume as a rookie, and then as soon as Mixon came in, he kind of was like, that was the end for him and I don't even know. It's really hard to tell if he's even going to be technically their backup.
I don't even know.
So I don't even think he's a handcuff for Mixon. I mean, I think he right now is technically third on the depth chart. I mean, him kick returning, it doesn't all necessarily help his cause.
Right. So, same league. This is the Brainiacs League, which is one of the Mighty McGlynn Dynasty home leagues. The Brainiacs League, we had another trade, which was not me this time. Where the hell is it at? Shit, I'm going through right now. Damn it. I can't. I don't know. I'm going through different leagues trades. So there was a couple other trades in that. One involved J.K. Dobbins, which was kind of, it was nothing for nothing back in the day, which at this point in time you consider that a loss because J.K. Dobbins went nuts, for what you got for it. All right, so we got my buddy Roach. He traded away Bucky Irving, a 25 first, a 26 first, and a 25 second. All right, so Bucky Irving, 25 second, and a 25 and a 26 first. He got Travis Kelce, Christian McCaffrey, and Chuba Hubbard.
Okay.
This PPR and a tight end premium 0.75.
I mean, if your team is like, you're like, I'm done, I'm not going to compete, and CMC and Kelce are my only guys, and I'm ready to get off a year early. I mean, that seems like not a good enough trade, but I have to tell you, if you think that Kelce and CMC are down for or set up for a downfall here in the next year, where they both production really gets capped. I mean, getting 2 firsts, a second, and Irvin, I actually think that's probably close for me, honestly. I think CMC is probably worth a little bit more, but he's getting older. Obviously, you saw the injury already to start this year. Kelce's still really good, but you saw he was just a step down last year.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know I traded Kelce 3 years ago for Muth in a league, and I couldn't get a guy to give me more than a first and a second, and that was 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So getting 2 firsts, a second, and Irving for those two guys. I mean, if I'm looking at it, I'm thinking you're probably paying 2 firsts for a CMC and a second and Irving for Kelce is how I would look at that.
Yeah. I mean, Kelce is, it almost seems like he's mailing it in right now. He's hanging out with the hot girls.
I think the issue for him is, I think he's still going to be good. He's still going to be one of the top guys. I mean, he's got, as long as he's tied to Mahomes, he's going to be good. He's just not clear cut the best guy anymore. Right. I think that's the issue. So the value there, I still think Kelce's good. I think he's worth having. I just don't think he's as much of a step up in premium over everyone else that he was 2-3 years ago.
No, right. And he's not even, he's at this point in time, he's like tight end 6 or tight end 7 possibly, which
he's still top 5 to I mean, he's a top 10 tight end for sure. He's still going to be in the mix for top 5, but the days of him being number 1 and number 1 by a lot are those are over.
So you had traded another trade that happened this is a 3-1-2 Dynasty Gurus League, which that one trade was in. Another one that happened was we have a draft lottery. So you're not, even if you tank the shit out of stuff, you're not guaranteed to get 101. It's roll the dice. You could have literally the least amount of points by 300 points by the league and still get pick 106. So there's nothing guaranteed here. But so what ended up being probably a lottery pick, this guy one guy got, and he traded away Cooper Kupp in a 26th fifth. So you had gotten Cooper Kupp. Are you okay with a trade the top 5 pick for Cooper Kupp if you're going to win now?
Yeah. I mean, it's tough to give up a top 5, but I had somebody offer me like 2 2s for Cooper in a Dynasty League the other day, and I'm in win now mode. I was the highest scoring team last year. I've never won this league. This is one of my leagues I run. Yeah. I've finished second like 4 or 5 times in 10 years we've run this league. I've never won it. I had the most points last year. I lose in the third place. I either lose in the semis and get third, or I win and I lose the championship game like every year in this league. Drives me. This is my big money. This is my big money league too. A lot of money on the table. You win this league and you pay for 5 years worth of this league. So it's a big one. And somebody offered me 2 seconds, and I mean, I gave the house 2 years ago for Cooper. I mean, I think I traded away Highwood Brown, 2 firsts and a second, and I got Cooper Cup in I think maybe like a 4th round in returns in IDP league. So those 4th, 5th rounders are still worth something. It was a lot, but at the time I was right there at the cusp of winning it. I had a really good team. I have Tyreek Hill. I have CMC. It's just like I needed one more like banger guy, and then he got hurt. It killed me. I got offered 2 seconds, but I'm still in the mix, and I just turned it down. I was like, no. I was like, man, I'd have to at least get a first for Cooper at this point. I think I maybe would take less if I was a team that was struggling. I was like, man, I just got to get something for him. I maybe would have pulled the trigger on the 2 seconds, but not when I'm competing.
There's nothing worse than trading for a veteran who's in, kind of like the twilight of his career, and you trade the house just to get him, and then he gets hurt, and you're like, fuck, this guy's never going to have his value back. Like the Allen Robinsons or the Mike Williams or shit like that, So,
and he's been solid when he's played. So I don't want to say it's not like he's been a complete wash. When he's not been hurt, he's been good. He scores for me every week. So, John, I got to trade for you. I want to see.
You got one in your inbox right now from New Mailman Chris.
Oh, just sent JD a blockbuster. All right, let me check that one out. While I'm looking that out, let me bring this one up to you, John. I just got offered this one. This is a 48 team league. A little crazy. So it's 4 copy. It's start 2 quarterback, start 2 tight end, quarterback tight end premium, but the scoring is a little crazy. The QB scoring is wild. If you get sacks, if you get picks, if you get multiple picks, it's like you can. I remember in a league last year, I had Justin Fields and he ran for 108 yards and he scored me negative 15 points. So it's like negative points per incompletion. It's one of those wild leagues where you can score a lot, but man, you can also get murdered if your QB plays bad. So Justin Fields started last week because when this league started, I had Justin Fields, Sam Darnold. Or no, sorry. I had Justin Fields, Sam Howell, and T-Law as my 3 QBs. Well, then I went into this season. All of a sudden, I just had T-Law in a start 2 quarterback league. It got to my turn in the draft. Bo Nix was sitting there, and I couldn't pull the trigger. I couldn't do it. So I drafted Brian Thomas instead because I told you I love Brian Thomas. So I drafted Brian Thomas instead because I got T-Law, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to figure out quarterback later, but I'm taking freaking Brian Thomas. So I took Brian Thomas in this league. And so I got an offer for a trade because I sent a thing out and said, hey, I need a second QB. Luckily, Fields played last week, but if he ever goes back to the bench, I'm in trouble. I got offered Sam Darnold. Me and you love Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold and a 4th for Najee Harris. And you know how much Najee's my boy. This one is a toughie for me.
If you are in need of a quarterback this year,
I need a QB, but I'm like, I know it's a pretty much a 1-year rental on Sam Darnold because JJ is going to come back next year, and unless the Vikings win the Super Bowl, there's no way they're not going to let JJ take over. Now, Darnold could play well enough to get a job somewhere else.
Exactly.
Maybe he plays really well. It's a possibility. I'm on the fence on this one. I hate to give up Najee, but I'm definitely on the fence here. I'll pull up my team and tell you I got real quick.
All right.
Think about this team to decide, would you take this trade or not? I'm on the fence about it. So my roster right now, like I told you, my QBs, T-Law, Sam Howell, Justin Fields, Drew Lock, Mitchell Trubisky. My RBs, which pretty good RB points. We get yards per carry, all that stuff. So I got Kenneth Walker, David Montgomery, Devin Singletary, Najee, Chase Brown, Justice Hill, Damian Pierce. So I've got a lot of running backs. And then wide receivers, Mike Evans, Marvin Harrison, Christian Kirk, Darnell Mooney, Josh Reynolds, Juju, Brian Thomas, Jalen Tolbert. And then my tight ends, which is a start 2 tight end, and there's a huge premium. So they're like impossible to get. Travis Kelce, Muth, Kylan Granson, and Andrew Ogletree right now are my tight ends. So that's the question: is do I pull the trigger in case Justin Fields gets sat in a start 2 QB league? Do I take Sam Darnold in the 4th for Najee?
I'm going to bet that Sam Darnold, if he played so well the first week of the season, if he keeps up this consistency, he's going to have a future somewhere else. We talked about this earlier today. He's still only like 27 years old. I could see him, even if they do bring in JJ McCarthy, not a big deal. Sam Darnold's making $10 million this year. He's a valuable quarterback. If he plays, I mean, he could call his own shot next year. There's a lot of teams.
Is this the Sam Darnold bounce back Baker Mayfield year? Is this Sam Darnold where he gets the 1 year to prove himself with the Vikings and he does what Baker did with the Bucks, balled out, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, he's valuable.
Yeah, you know.
I'm on the fence on this trade. That's why I'm gonna have to put up a Twitter poll on what I should do with it. But I'm on the fence with it. If you got another trade going, I'm gonna look up this trade that Chris just sent me.
I'm just gonna say that it's not Najee Harris ain't getting any younger either. So it's one of those things where it's almost 50-50. The draft pick really doesn't matter that much to me, but there's a certain guy who works at Fantrax who was in my home leagues too, in the 3-1-2 Dynasty League, that he traded for Will Levis, okay, which you don't like. Will Levis kind of had a bad week one, but he needed quarterback. He was desperate for quarterback, okay? When you're desperate for quarterback, you send a lot of stuff away. He said he got Will Levis. He traded away Troy Franklin, which might look like a pretty smart move. He also traded away Devin Singletary, which he's probably going to be the workhorse for this year and this year only in the Giants. He also traded away J.K. Dobbins, which, who knows how that's going to work out. A 25 third, which would probably be a mid, and a 26 second, all for Will Levis. So Troy Franklin, Devin Singletary, J.K. Dobbins, a 25 third and a 26 second for Will Levis. If Will Levis falls on his face this year, I mean, it's not like he's going to absolutely – I mean, losing a second-round pick and a mid-third-round pick is pretty bad. Dobbins, who knows what's going to happen. Franklin looks like he might be a bust, and Singletary is probably a one-year rental. So he didn't give up too much minus a second-round pick, which is 2 years from now. So, I mean, if you needed a quarterback that bad, this is a justifiable trade, right?
Yeah, I would make that move. I mean, even though I'm not a Levis guy,
I'll be right back.
I think he has value. So I think that's a decent one for sure. So I could definitely see taking that. I did just get Chris, if you're still watching here, I did just get your trade looking at. So anyone who's listening, here is the trade that Chris just sent me in the Baby and Boomers League 12 team Dynasty half point PPR tight end premium Superflex League, sending me Puka Nacua, Ray Davis, and a 25 fifth. I love Trey Benson, for my boy Trey Benson, Brian Thomas, two guys who I traded in this draft in order to get. I actually got out of Marvin Harrison Jr. to get Brian Thomas and Drake May, and then traded 2 seconds to get Benson and a 25 second. Ooh, Chris, I'm going to have to think about this one. I'm going to have to mull this one over. John, I'm going to tell you, I just announced it to everybody what just got sent to me from Chris, Baby and Boomers League. He sends me Puka Nacua, my boy Ray Davis, in a fourth for Trey Benson, Brian Thomas, and a 25 second.
Not a chance. I mean,
that's so close. I mean, you got to say I like Puka. If Puka continues to do what Puka does, obviously has the injury right now. I love Brian Thomas a lot. I'm a big Brian Thomas guy. What did you say?
You're getting Puka and Brian Thomas?
I'm getting Puka and Ray Davis in a fourth. I'm giving up Benson, Thomas in a second. Yeah. And I'm just giving a little more depth to this trade. So I originally had the second pick in this draft. I traded it away for the fourth pick. I traded away for the fourth or fifth pick and the ninth pick. And so I ended up giving up Marvin Harrison Jr., but I ended up getting Drake May and Brian Thomas out of it. So I ended up trading those two together because I only have 2 starting QBs in the Superflex. So I was like, I really hate to give up Marvin Harrison, but I really needed another QB. No one was going to get to me in the second round. So I really like Brian Thomas. So I was like, oh, I'll take the QB and the wideout. Then I turned around and traded 2 second-round picks for the 112 and took Trey Benson at the 112 as the second running back off the board. Mm-hmm. And then I turned around and traded Christian Kirk for a first next year and a second next year. Right after that, after I acquired Brian Thomas. So this is what I'm going to have to think about. What would you lean here, John? Would you take Puka, Ray Davis, and a 25 fourth for Benson, Thomas, and a 25 second?
I want Benson Thomas in a second by a mile.
Do you?
Yeah.
That's my team. I like those guys a lot. I mean, Puka's worth a lot, so I can absolutely see this. I think this is a decent offer because you're hoping Thomas is as good as Puka. I love Ray Davis. Don't get me wrong. I love Ray Davis. I think Benson's better. That's why I had Benson as my number one rated back. But I did have Ray Davis as my number 5 running back in the rookie draft. So I liked him more than a lot of people. And then you're swapping a second for a fourth. To me, that feels like a pretty solid offer.
To say Brian Thomas is close to Puka Nacua is kind of sacrilegious, I would say right now. Because
that's what I'm saying. I'm saying, Thomas in a second for Puka probably seems about fair because, that seems equal to Puka. I like Brian Thomas, but he hasn't proven enough he's not worth Puka. So I think a second's even, and then giving up, taking a little bit of the heat and giving up Benson for Ray Davis in a fourth. You got to take a little bit of the burn because you're getting Puka. Chris, I'm going to think about that one. I got to decide. I'm not 100% sure on that one. That one's close, though. I like the trade.
It's not absolutely terrible, Chris. I'm just kind of like, I know you say not a chance. He's like objection leading.
He's like leading the witness.
Objection leading the witness.
There he goes. There he goes.
I just feel like I love Puka, but that's the only thing you're getting, and you're getting 2 studs, which I think would be future studs going forward. I don't know. Puka's been hurt a lot.
Yeah, John, this is a nice trade here. This is a nice, interesting one. Yeah, pulled up CMC for Breece Hall straight up.
Kevin THAL.
And a full PPR.
In a full PPR, CMC for Breece Hall straight. I'm sorry, I'm going to probably take Breece Hall in this one.
I know. I think I'm the biggest CMC guy ever, but you got Breece is younger. He's shown he can catch the ball as well as CMC has. If I can go younger here, and again, I am one of those guys that I completely am trading for CMC everywhere. I'm probably leaning the Breece Hall trade here if I can get Breece.
I am too. It's going to hurt for maybe a year or so, but after that, you could kind of see the CMC kind of like losing some traction. The tread on his tires is kind of wearing out now. So
I still think you got a couple good years out of. I know I'm saying this as he's hurt, but I still think you got a couple good years out of CMC. But I think Breece. I loved Breece coming out of college. I still think he is going to be elite.
So CMC has proven himself in a lot of places. I know he's not just a freak that does things crazy. He's not just he's not, even though the 49ers is a really good team, it's not like anybody can come in there and do what he did, right? So like somebody like Jordan Mason couldn't come in there and just score 32 fantasy points on a Monday Night Football game, right?
Well, I think doing it on a consistent basis is going to be tougher. I mean, it's a good enough offense that if you're a pretty solid running back in the NFL, you could go into San Francisco and be successful. I think you can be. Now, can you do what CMC's done? I don't think so. I mean, CMC, to me, and I'll say this till the end of time, he was the league MVP last year. He was more important. He was the better player than Lamar. Lamar had a great year, but CMC was the driving force behind that team. So I love CMC more than anything, but it's straight up here, nothing else to consider. I'm probably taking Breece.
I'm probably taking Breece myself too. I've gotten rid of guys way too early, and I kicked myself in the ass for getting rid of guys. Like 2 years ago, I traded away Joe Mixon. I traded away Stephon Diggs. I traded away Travis Kelce. I traded away these guys are at the end of the rope. They're on the way down. Blah, blah. What I mean, I'm one of those guys who I don't like to get caught with holding the bag. I guess they'd say. But CMC is just so overused. It's just a matter of time before he starts breaking down. And guys like him, when they have like these core injuries or like these, how do you call it? Like
you get the muscle pulls and tears. And the worry is right now with CMC is that this is something that's like, it's not like a pull. It's like not going to go away. Like this could end up being like a chronic problem with his calf. With inflammation and stuff, which honestly, that's not the exact same thing, but that's kind of what ended up killing Todd Gurley's career. He just got those chronic inflammation in his knees, and they just would never go down, and they just were killing him. So
You start throwing the word Achilles in these conversations too, then it's even more of a serious issue.
Yeah, and Achilles can be tough. I've got Achilles that's not 100% great, and I tell you what, I'm not sprinting around anywhere. And man, when it starts tightening up and hurting, it's rough. It's rough to walk.
Yeah, like Chris said, soft tissue issue.
Uh-huh.
So, all right, that's Kevin, thank you very much. So we're at like 35 minutes here. I just want to talk about some home league rules. JT, I think you got to jump off to a different show, right? Where can everybody find you at?
Yep, you can find me on Fantasy and Frames. I'm going to be jumping on the Shoot the Gap, our IDP podcast over there. So if you get a chance and you play IDP, any of you don't, you just want to see what we had to say and check it out, jump on over there. We'll be jumping on here in just a couple minutes on Fantasy and Frames YouTube channel. I do all kinds of stuff over there, multiple shows. The Stew with JT Brew is my show. I do a college gambling and an NFL gambling show during the season. I play in every type of league: CFF, C2C, Devy, Best Ball, Dynasty, Redraft. I do it all. So any of those questions, you can always find me on Twitter or the X at JT Orange. Go ahead and you can follow me there. Send me questions, polls, anything you want about that kind of stuff. And then I'm always here with you, John, when I can, here on the Commissioner Evaluation Podcast.
Yes, sir. Okay, cool. We'll have that at the other show. I'm gonna talk about some home league rules here to close the show out, and then maybe Chris Joel Smith can keep making fun of me over here. So we'll,
I appreciate it, John. Thanks very much, man. I'll talk to you later.
All right, see you tomorrow. So for those of you who do, let me get this off so my head doesn't look as bigger than it already is. So for those of you who do home league stuff, what I do in my leagues is I have a couple rules that a lot of work for me. I redo the schedule. I have a divisional play all in week 1. That way I still have the 13 game schedule, like we used to, like everybody's been used to for the last, I don't know how many years. And I have the divisional play all week 1. That means that I have 4 divisions. There's 3 teams per division, and each division will have a win, a loss, and a tie. And that ends up being a tiebreaker, because then you play your division opponents in week 2 through 4 and 12 to 14. So this will be a third game that's a tiebreaker. So whoever wins 2 of the 3, you have the tiebreakers in these leagues, in the Mighty McGlynn Dynasty home leagues, which I call them, are it's obviously it's head to head, and then division record, and then points, things like that. There's a handful of leagues that are set up different with points first, and then head to head, and division records, things like that. So, but I had to go back and change a lot of the matchups this morning in all the leagues, and give the highest scoring team a win, the lowest scoring team a loss, and the middle scoring team, I had to readjust the entire schedule for week 1 so that there was 4 ties. So even if people were playing different people, I had to reorganize everything. So there's 4 ties, 4 wins, and 4 losses, because there's 4 divisions. So that tiebreaker scenario there, I think it's pretty important. It's a lot of extra work on my part doing it for all my home leagues, but in the long run, when it gets down to playoff time, it's a super awesome tiebreaker. If a lot of people don't like divisions, divisions are kind of it's BS. Divisions in a home league are I think are pretty important. It's something that it's a lot of smack. We have division drafts every year, which you get to draft your division opponents. If you get picked first in the division draft, your team absolutely sucks. So it's one of those things where you make fun of each other about it. If you're the last team to get picked in the division draft, like it goes, there's 4 teams that pick. The worst of the 4 division winners gets first pick, and then the best, the number 1 overall seed, generally speaking, is the 4th pick. So there's 8 teams left, and it's a snake draft, 1 to 4, and then 5 to 8, and that's kind of how that goes. So as the draft goes on, you make fun of each other, make fun of the things that who gets drafted, what position. There's bragging rights for getting picked last. There's terrible situations for being picked once. A lot of names get attached to that because your team blows. But there's people who are rebuilding. I get it, and we also do a lot of the max points for on the phone app, on the app itself on your phone, the max points for is what is for division for rounds 2 to 5, and the max points for picks 1 to 6 in the rookie draft are all going to draft lottery. It's something that I think is awesome. I actually have bingo balls. We had this lottery from picks 1 to 6. Makes things just so much more fun when you have a draft lottery. It's not as just kind of dry as picking. Okay, well, I didn't do shit the whole second half of the season. I traded my team away. Now I got pick 101. You can get pick 113 if you win the shit bowl. So people are trying to win pick 113. So nobody's actively tanking because you're not guaranteed anything if you tank. You're still in a draft lottery pick 1 to 6. So it's in your best interest to make your team young and good and contention all the time to win pick 113. You get an extra first round pick. So you get maybe pick 1 to 6, somewhere between 1 to 6, and then pick 13 also. It's pretty to have 2 first round picks, and then maybe you can trade for some players who panned out, who are older, get more first round picks. I mean, somebody had 5 first round picks last year. This year, there's a guy named Vince who was in the the Brainiacs League. He's got 8 of the 12 first round picks this year. He kind of punted. He's going to have his. He's going to be obviously he won this week. I don't know how the hell he did that in his division because he punted across the board. Just because guys like J.K. Dobbins went nuts, a couple other dudes who are never going to go nuts on a regular basis. Somehow, somewhat, he won week 1. He's not trying to win, but win and loss is important. But it's less important to score less points. So he's kind of effing himself by scoring points. But those are things that just happen. But some other things I do for my league, like we have in-person drafts. We have if you ever get a chance to do a home league, I'm not people who never experienced a home league before to put stickers on a board. What happens there if you win your league, you pick the spot where the draft is at. So if you're in Chicago or Denver or at some small town in Michigan or whatever, it doesn't matter. Put a league together, and then this guy gets to pick his basement, his garage, his favorite bar, whatever it is. And it's never going to be the same place twice. I mean, I've been running these leagues for a long time. I've been all over to the north side of Chicago, south side of Chicago, Bridgeport, West Loop, the Naperville, way up north. I travel a lot. I bring my board. I buy the stickers every year. I also give out a ring for the champion. I have it custom made out of my own pocket. It's not out of league dues. I make rings for everybody, showing their record, what league it is. If they were the champion, how many years in a row if they were the champion. One guy won 3 years in a row already. Just an absolute stud team. There's a couple guys who won back-to-back and other leagues too. So these are things that being in a home league is super fun because you get to walk in a draft with these 3 or 4 rings and you're like Tom Brady showing off because you've got 3 or 4 rings in the last 10 years. It's bragging rights, it's things like that make home leagues awesome. So we're going to do a lot throughout the season. We're going to do a lot more of these shows, but they're going to be evaluating a team. We're going to go over waiver wire stuff. We're going to do a lot more in season stuff. This year was kind of the off season. We didn't really do too much here, but we are going to be on Fantrax. A little bit of college stuff too, possibly, because I'm in college leagues with JT. Just kind of giving you guys a taste of like what's going on. We're going to keep in touch with trying to do as much as we can in these shows and keep them informative. So if you're just in redraft or you go all the way down to C2C leagues, which is Campus Canton, which is a college fantasy football aspect, we're going to go across the board and probably touch on everything. So some things you may have wanted to try before, just getting in a dynasty is a big step. Getting into super flex is a big step instead of a 1 quarterback league, tight end premium, extra flex spots, expanding your roster, going from an 8 to a 10 to a 12 to a 14 team league. There's a lot of things that go on here that we're going to try to talk about. And I look forward to discussing. If you got any questions, let me know. And I'll bring them up on the show. But this is, just show 1 of this year. And it'll be a little more informative next year. But just giving you a taste of what's up coming down the pipeline. So thanks a lot for watching, everyone. Feel free to subscribe to Dynasty Evaluation Show. This is Commissioner Evaluation Show, which is part of the Dynasty Evaluation YouTube channel. And make sure you subscribe to Fantrax also. Fantrax has tons of good stuff. Nick's on here all the time, putting all kind of good stuff across the board on the P2W channel, on the Fantrax channel, and on his P2W Twitter page. Follow me on John McGlynn 75 on the X Machine, and we'll talk to you later. Thanks for joining us today.